Noon Soup. It is me, Ketsu. I am accompanied by the Foundation and Riggs, as always. This is episode 8 on August 19th, Thursday, and we are here for a review tonight. Tonight we are reviewing 2006's Satoshi Kon's Paprika. Before I dive into that and we kind of get into this review, how's everyone doing this evening?
Good.
Yeah, I'm good. Do you want any more details? Or
No, just
Do you
checking
want to
in.
share more details? I don't know.
Just checking, just seeing how everyone's doing this evening.
No, I'm
Making sure everyone's
fantastic.
fine. You can share as
Good.
little or as much as you want.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm great. I've had a very long day, but I'm good.
All right,
About to crack a beer.
do it.
Much needed. Well, I guess without further ado, let's dive into the film Paprika. So quick summary. Dr. Atsuka Chiba works as a scientist by day and under the codename Paprika is a dream detective at night. Atsuko and her colleagues are working on a device called the DC Mini, which is intended to help psychiatric patients, but in the wrong hands, it could destroy people's minds. When a prototype is stolen, Atsuko / Paprika springs into action to recover it before damage is done. Let's see. So this movie came out in 2006. The director, Satoshi Kon, one of the late greats. R.I.P. That man was a legend. He passed away in, I believe, 2010 from pancreatic cancer. But I think this was his kind of last feature-length film before he passed on. I think he did something in 2008, but it was mostly just like writing for like small stories that went to video air. So this was his last feature-length film. But
Wow.
back on the film synopsis, just like a little history there with the director. Kind of a tragic story. He was a very impactful director, very prolific man in the industry. But back to the film. Did you guys watch and enjoy? What are your thoughts and feelings off the bat here?
Do you want to go first, Riggs?
Sure. I did watch it, and I will say I felt lost. No, I didn't feel lost. It was how did I feel? I enjoyed it. It wasn't. I don't think it was like my cup of tea of genre that I really like get into. But I did enjoy it for everything that it was: story, plot, art, all that, music, sound. Once you kind of got a grasp of what was going on throughout the movie, it made more and more sense. So I think the beginning was a little confusing to kind of understand where everything is happening, like what's actually happening.
Mhm.
But I think, yeah, once you kind of grasp what's going on, it all kind of makes sense. It reminded me of that movie Inception, I think, if I got that one right, the non-animated movie about those group of people that jump around in dreams.
With Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. I'll be honest, I didn't really see the whole movie. I just saw tidbits and pieces. So, but no, I like this one. It was good. That's my quick synopsis.
Sure. I guess I agree with you there. It really takes diving in and continuing to watch the whole movie for you to be like, oh, okay, this all kind of adds up. This is starting to make more sense. Because in the beginning, you're like, what the hell is going on? So it takes some time. But then once everything like moves forward, you're just like, oh, this is actually very kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Foundation, your thoughts and feelings.
I thought it was really good. Not to like sound like a parrot of Riggs over there, but the artwork was really good. Music was really good. It was suspenseful. It was like, to me right away, it was apparent that it was like gonna be about dreams and stuff. I got that right away. I saw that device on the head, which I kind of just attributed to something kind of like some dream machine type of thing. I got kind of like here's where it kind of went wrong for me is like I couldn't find an English dub version, which right there it like takes a couple points off the movie. I'm sure in English dub I would have been a lot more like enthralled into it. The second half of the film was a lot more interesting than the first half. But like I thought it was cool. I don't know. I was like, God, I can't I can't, finish this movie quick enough, But like since I was watching the movie, like in the time, because I watched it today, this afternoon, I've been thinking about it a lot more and like just thinking like, I thought it was really weird that the dream world and the reality world started merging, but then I was like, okay, well that's saying something that maybe the director is trying to say is that we're not actually living in a base reality, or they weren't living in a base reality. And that's why it was able to be kind of fixed by that Paprika character, or whatever her other alter ego is at the end, by getting rid of the chairperson or whoever that was. So yeah, it was cool. I thought it touched on some interesting points with what it's not Paprika. What's the actual like female character's name?
Dr. Atsuko.
The dark haired chick.
Atsuko.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Dr.
so-
Atsuko.
She was kind of berating the inventor of this dream machine, basically just saying like
Yeah. Dr. Tokita.
yeah, she was like berating him, and basically just like saying that he was like irresponsible child because he was just obsessed with creating the technology and creating technology versus like what it actually did to or is doing to people, and not even trying to come up with a solution to the issues that were happening, which I thought was pretty insightful and pretty accurate for what it was. I thought it was it's a lot better movie after I think about it for a while than what my original take on it. And that was more based on it being Japanese and not English dub, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those films that you kind of have to let stew for a minute because there's a lot to process, especially like visually. Like it's a very visually grabbing video. The animation, the color, just like the sequences between reality and dreams.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Like after you let it sit for a bit, you come to find like, oh, this was really good, and it does draw on good points. Like just to jump off what you're saying with Dr. Atsuko and like her relationship to Tanaka, like they've been side by side since the beginning of their program. Like they started it together, and then you come to find, spoilers, like they actually have feelings for each other, but it's never dawned on until the very end, and they just like accept each other for who they are, and then like that helps them both grow as people. But that was one of the things that had been stunting them as people like through the entirety of it. Not like a huge plot point, but just a subtlety. I think it's interesting, like its metaphor on like corporate greed and power hunger when it comes to like technology. Like these machines get stolen from the lab, and then it turns out to be like the man in charge, the CEO, who's like funding the entire thing and like tells them to shut it down, all the while he's using the technology to like blend human consciousness with their subconscious dream realities to then become like the god figure of like this next transdimensional world.
Yeah.
And then Paprika steps in and is like, nope, I gotta stop this. So that's really interesting and kind of cool. And like, I guess just like the concept of like what is real, what isn't, like you were mentioning before, like base reality versus dream reality or your subconscious, like what makes one more real than the other, and the blending of the two can be really nice and very helpful. Like the entire point of their technology is to like help cure like people's depression or psychiatric patients, or it could be gripped and used as a tool or a weapon to kind of control and congregate the masses. Kind of interesting. So that's, I guess, the base story, and it's all wrapped up with some really, really fun animation, some cool sequences.
Yeah. It's what I thought was really cool, more so, is how good of a job it did with depicting how dreams kind of flow and how like sort of disjointed dreams can be, and bringing that to the big screen, essentially, or to a movie where it's like you're doing one thing in a dream and then it's like something happens and like everything's turned around and you are what you're looking at, kind of in that one scene at the very beginning. And then towards the end, that detective guy was at the circus. He's like standing in the crowd, and then he looks, and this dude like pulls this sheet off this thing. It's like him inside this cage, and then he's looking back at himself. And I thought that was like kind of trippy in a way. But yeah, I thought it was really good. As far as one thing that really tripped me out was like all the, I think it was like maybe it was in the Takio's dreams, or I don't know, the big man. It could have been his dreams. There was like all those like dolls that like had shaking heads.
That was
another one. Oh,
it was his partner's dream.
I know what you're talking about. That was it was his partner's dream, but it was a broken part. I do know what you're talking about. I don't know. It wasn't really that moment where she's like a fairy and is like floating around.
Yeah, it happens a couple times.
That's not really conjoined to whose dream or what that is. It sounds like it was just a outside you're in the dream world. It was just a collective dream reality.
Well, I mean, as it starts, Himuro is, I think, what you're talking about. Like in the beginning, when the doctor, like in the very beginning, like he starts to go through that parade because his consciousness gets taken over in reality, and they're like, "What the hell's going on?" and jumps out of the window. So then they go to investigate, and it turns out it was Himuro, which they thought was the original antagonist. So they like go into that sequence, and it's all these dolls. And after like seeing his apartment, like of all the stuff that he was up to, and his like weird obsession with Dr. Tokita, but he was actually, and then it's just like it shows that he was used as a pawn by Osanai and the
Chairman
Inui, the Sajiro dude who's like the CEO. So they were both using him as a congregate, like, and they melded his dreams into theirs, and I don't know, used him as a puppet. But any shaking heads in a movie or show or anime kind of creep me out a little bit. Sure. Anything that has to do with dolls, I'm kind of never on board with. I'm like, especially the one that was huge and then starts like screaming really weird.
Oh yeah. So he also did Perfect Blue.
Satoshi Kon, yes, he did Perfect Blue, Tokyo Godfathers, Millennium Actress, and he wrote one of the 3 anthological stories of Memories, which we had mentioned a couple of times here and there throughout our shows. That was another work of Katsuhiro Otsuma, who did Akira. And what's really fun, So like toward the end of the movie, when the detective like goes into the bar and tries to look for Paprika but isn't there, and then the bartenders like tip him off like, oh, there's something's afoot, and he like go and like someone mentions like to go see a movie. I think I forget the exact sequence, but he walks into this realm and it shows like Paprika, where he's about to go save Paprika when he's being held hostage by Dr. Onai. It shows movies that are playing, and actually, you know what? I will pull this sequence up so we can share with the audience here. One sec, I just gotta sign into this. But it shows like all the other featured films that are playing in that theater are like the movie posters for all of his other work. So it's a fun little Easter egg of him like plugging all of his previous work.
Yep.
Which I thought was really cool and kind of fun.
What else did you think, Foundation?
I thought the animation style was really cool. It's very reminiscent of it seemed very similar to a lot of the other very, popular anime like Spirited Away. A lot of the work that was done by who's the director that did Spirited Away? Something Yamakaze or something? Shiroto.
Why am I blanking on this? Hiromi. Fucking why the fuck can I not remember this? It's ridiculous. Hayao Miyazaki.
Yeah. So I thought this animation style was very similar to the Miyazaki stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you guys get that or no?
I can see where you're going.
I can see where you're going with that. I think that this is remnant of it, but it's very distinctive. Like where I feel like all of Satoshi Kon's works, art styles are all very, very similar. In the same sense that all of Studio Ghibli's are all very similar, especially with like character design and like face structure and like archetyping and things like that.
Okay. Yeah. What else? I mean, animation is good. I don't know. I mean, I would not say that it would probably be. It's a good anime. I don't know why it's in that list though. That top 10 list. Maybe because I don't know. Maybe what makes you guys think that it's in that top 10 list?
I think just because like Satoshi Kon is as prolific as he is and was such an influencer on the industry that people really praised it. But
wasn't it a combo with that and the blue one? Blanking on that.
Yeah, Perfect Blue.
Wasn't it like a
Perfect
tied?
Blue. Yeah.
It was just like, well, why not just put him out? Like put his studio. I don't know. We were confused on why they would pick one and not, or why they pick both and rather pick his best one, and then just say all of his work. Blah 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 blah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was just a better movie in thinking about it than actually watching it, sort of. But the last 15 minutes were really good. I mean, even without English, I was like, wow, this is really cool. But I do think that the director was actually hinting that he believes that like we don't live in the base reality that we think we live in. And maybe that's something that he was trying to say to everybody, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know on that one. I haven't watched enough of his work. I mean, it's obviously he's a thinker. I would say that's probably why it made it on that list, because it gets your mind going.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I did appreciate the plot development of it, because the chairman being the bad guy kind of came out of nowhere. There wasn't a whole lot leading to the fact that he was, the bad guy who stole the devices and is using them. Since he was so against people meddling in the dream world, or meddling with, how did he said something about like science and dreams, or technology and dreams. He was using some comparison, and that they should never intermix.
Yeah, he was saying that the dream world is something like non-corrupted, but not profane or something. But basically, it's just like he was upset that like this machine was corrupting the dreams, which seemed incorruptible.
The purity of dreams, and that basically humans using technology was corrupting the dream world by simply basically standing foot in it, becoming a part, entering the dream reality without actually being in a dream state. And so I think that's where what he was kind of insinuating at. But I mean, I honestly thought we were going to have like another kind of like Ghost in the Shell type thing, where it was like somehow the dreams have developed some sort of self-consciousness and moved and are kind of doing their own thing. And it was just this, because he kept talking to it was the Tokita was like talking who he thought was his friend, and then he's like, wait a second, you're not my friend, who are you? And it kind of like the eyes of the doll shifted and looked at him, and then it went to a different screen, like went to a different scene. And so I thought it was kind of alluding to like this newly formed consciousness in the dream world that is now like aware of it, and becoming aware because of the amount of dreams that were being accessed and the amount of subconsciouses that were being mixed in with each other. And because it sounded like they could access, in this dream world, you could access anyone, even though they kept saying anybody who was hooked up, but it seemed like they could access machines, anybody who wasn't hooked up, because there were people who were having these psychological breakdowns and they weren't currently hooked up to the machine.
Right.
They had potentially been hooked up at one point. So it was just like, it was kind of weird that you could access someone's subconscious while they're not hooked up to the machine all of a sudden. Or maybe they were, I don't know. I mean, that's what it seemed like what was happening. So it was just kind of like, what's happening here now?
I kind of that was one of my like drawbacks that I had to think about for a second, because I almost like plot hole. I was like, where does this add up? And like the best I could come up with like my imagination and thinking about it is like people that were hooked up to this machine once, like they had access to like go and corrupt their subconscious, right? So then anybody who bears witness to those people going delusional, like grants access to then their subconscious, because like through like proxy or something. But that was something that I didn't understand. But like in the end, it ended up just being like, no, now everyone's subconscious can be swallowed and put into this dream reality. Whereas it was at first they hypothesized like it was only patients who were hooked up to these psychiatric machines or therapy machines,
Yeah, because like my thought was, well, why don't you just unplug everybody then? Like, it was like, if you're concerned with people like being manipulated, I was like, just unplug everybody. But then like the lead guy went crazy and jumped through the window, and then those two other scientists went crazy and got hit by cars or caused a car accident. Wasn't very clear what happened to them. I don't think they got hit, because they didn't look like they got hit, because they were still doing their thing. I did think something that was really weird throughout the whole story was why were people doing that like Hitler salute, like the Nazi salute thing? Like it was blowing my mind. It was like
in the dream world.
In either. The two scientists while they're walking down the hall, they're both sticking their arms out.
Oh yeah, very much.
All
like
of the dolls were like sitting like
Heilig.
this, and it's like, I'm like, what's happening here?
No, I noticed that too, and was immediately like, that's so weird.
It was so, and like, but there wasn't anything else that would like draw it to anything of like a Nazi or anything like that. But it was just like,
well, it was like they're in that dream world in that procession, that sort of parade where they had like that.
Well, right. But then, like the scientists were right. But I'm just saying, it just didn't make sense because it wasn't like there was like a marching sound. Like this was all upbeat, and it was like it's like a Thanksgiving parade for us.
Yeah, and they're
just
like, and they're just talking absolute nonsense about like dairy products and things like that. Just weird.
But yet they have their arm out, like they're marching.
Yeah, doing
a military march. But then they're also not kicking their legs up. They're just like having a good time. Like their whole lower body is just like loosey goosey. But it's just like the one arm is locked in. It's like, what's happening here?
Yeah, I don't know.
So I don't know. It was just weird, and then all of the dolls just sitting on the carriage were like that. I thought that. So that was kind of weird.
I mean, I think it's like I think the
I'm glad I wasn't the only one who noticed it.
Yeah, no, I got it, but I think that part of me thinks that like, so at the end of the day, it was like this, the CEO, like this bad guy, the antagonist, he was the one manipulating all these dreams, and like. So part of his subconscious is projecting like potentially his political belief system, like because he did this and wants to be the ruler of like this new dream world. So it's like it's just projecting through like these victims, and then the dolls are just like a cadence or a shadow of what his subconscious is, and it's like very very like pointing your out there. He is just like ugh. Well, I think that was done on purpose, though, like show how bad the bad guy was in like a subconscious kind of way. But within all this, so I would like drawing back to like why you guys think that it is what it is. Like, I think it has to do with it being the first of its kind in like this kind of mind boggle. Kind of like head trip, and if you guys would like, I can read the critical reception as to what people are saying or why people kind of think it is what it is. Maybe that could shed some light if you guys are okay hearing that.
Yeah, I'll just say this as a precursor because I don't know what these critical reviews are going to say, but I would find it interesting that it would be pushing any type of envelope at 2007. Like this seems a little late as far as like a mind-bendy type movie, but maybe that's
well.
Right.
Here's the thing.
Know. Like 2007 is, I guess, 15 years ago. So
it came out in 2006. So yeah, I guess in one more year. What's one more year? But there's literally like people in here, like specifically in Elijah Wood excerpt. He was like, here, I'll just say this. He's like, that movie blew my mind too. That also pushed the envelope of what animation is, and it was kind of like almost like a total mind head trip, that film, from a visual standpoint. So I think that it was just like because of the animation and like how trippy it is visually, was the first to kind of do this.
And I could see that. I could see on the art side. Yes, I'm thinking more like plot wise. I was like, I can't be pushing any boundaries plot wise because I feel like there's had to have been tons of movies.
I'm sure that things were. I'm sure it was a lot like done before. So okay. Well, no, I can read this, but I think that a lot of it, like when it comes to like story and plot, like this is based on a book. But I think that because of like the story itself and like the plot itself was accompanied by that kind of animation and like that visual ride is what gave it the reception that it got and why it is so important. But if you guys are cool, I can jump into this and like read the critical reception front to back, and we can kind of juggle some points from there that might elude or kind of open things up as to why, or answer any questions as, for why does it have the reception it has. Without further ado, then, okay, so critical reception. Paprika has received positive reviews from film critics. It holds an 85% certified fresh approval rating on the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, based on 91 reviews with an average rating of 7.3 out of 10. At a consensus reading, following its own brand of logic, Paprika is an eye-opening mind trip that is difficult to follow but never fails to dazzle. Metacritic, which assigns a weighted average score, rated the film 81 out of 100 based on 26 critic reviews, indicating universal acclaim. Paprika won Best Feature-Length Theatrical Anime Award in the 6th Annual Tokyo Anime Awards during the 2007 Tokyo International Anime Fair. Andred Burgess of Yomiuri Shimbun praised that Paprika was the most mesmerizing animation long player since Miyazaki's Spirited Away 5 years ago. And that was in 2001. He also praised the film's animation and backgrounds. Mick LaSalle of the San Francisco Chronicle gave it a positive review, saying that the film is a sophisticated work of the imagination and challenging and disturbing and uncanny in in the ways it captures the nature of dreams. LaSalle later went on to say that the film is a unique and superior achievement. Robert Nelson of The Village Voice praised the film for its visuals. However, he complained about the plot, saying that Paprika is not a movie that's meant to be understood so much as simply experienced or maybe dreamed. Nelson later went on to say that Satoshi Kon, maintains a charming faith in cinema's ability to seduce fearless new theater audiences, even one viewer at a time. New York Times said the film has a sense of unease about the rapidly changing relationship between our physical selves and our machines. Dargis praised Khan for his direction, saying that he shows us the dark side of the imaginative world in Paprika that he himself has perceptibly brightened. 500 Essential Anime says that Paprika proves once again that the great science fiction doesn't rely on giant robots and alien worlds. So more psycho, but I think everyone's just kind of coming to the consensus that it's just visually and like pleasing and kind of like just pushes bounds of I guess like visualizing consciousness, if anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that last one that was like that it doesn't take like robots and aliens. It's like, okay, obviously you don't watch anime. Like,
right. Okay.
There's like, so some of these reviews I got to take with a grain of salt, but
sure.
I would agree.
Well,
so
there's a conversely, Roger Moore of the Orlando Sentinel gave a negative review saying, with a conventional invade dream / bend reality plot, it's a bit of a bore. It's not as dreamlike and mesmerizing as like Richard Linklater's rotoscope animation Waking Life. If you guys haven't seen that, it's amazing. Less fanciful than the Oscar-winning animated Spirited Away. Bruce Westbrook of the Houston Chronicle said the film is as trippy as a Jefferson Airplane light show, and criticized the characters and the dialogue. So, I mean, that's like two people who are like pretty up and, being critics that kind of went after it a little bit. But later on in Legacy, it literally just talks about Christopher Nolan and the movie Inception, saying that there are many striking similarities, including plot similarities, similar scenes, and similar characters, arguing that Inception was influenced by Paprika. So, full circle back to
I can see that
started, Jeff. That that kind of adds that up there.
Yeah, because Inception definitely came out much more recent, right? I feel like 2010s or something like that.
It was 2010 when that came out, yeah. So 4 years after this, after Paprika.
Yeah, as I said, like I mean, it is what it is. I'm looking at it right now. It's got an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I mean, obviously, people out there like. So to say that there's all these plot holes, I don't know. I mean,
more people.
I read professional critics of anime. I take with a grain of salt because I'll be real. I don't know how much of that they actually watch. You know what I mean?
Right. And if
That's
it's
my
just
opinion.
and if they're like film critics,
yeah.
There's a difference between being a film critic and being like an animated film critic.
Yeah. So I mean, you can look at them both, but if you're not watching a lot of animated films, I would I would specifically say anime films over animated films.
Right.
I would say animated film would also encompass like the Disney movies and the
Right,
the
yeah.
Pixars and stuff like
Yeah.
that, which are to me are totally a different breed than animated films. And
Mhm.
so yeah, I mean, one of the middle reviews I felt like had a pretty good notion of it. I can't remember offhand. I kind of wish I was looking at this and I'd be able to tell you, but yeah, I mean, it's I will say that there are some plot holes that were. I mean, we kind of discussed that. Was like, wow, are they? A lot of things aren't explained. Like I
Right, like-
wanted a history of Paprika, right? What is her deal? Like, why does she have this secondary personality, pretty much, of
Right.
a secondary conscious that does whatever it wants, free of her? So it's not some sort of attached,
Yeah.
like, subconscious, because or like it is a subconscious, but it's not like part of her because doesn't listen to her. It does
Right.
whatever it wants to do. And like it's almost like a split person. It's like she's bipolar and her split personality now has a physical form, because there's a point where she's talking to her. Like
Mhm.
she's like walking through the hall and she like looks out at the glass and she's like talking to her in the reflection. And
Yeah.
it's like, so now
So-
she can talk to her? Like,
My theory there is that like her being the doctor and like on the forefront of this technology, experimenting with it, and like making things come to be, like Paprika is started as a subconscious piece of like who she is. Like she has some sort of like justice and like this want for good and like for like some sort of neutrality, but then because of the technologies like growing in strength and like then opening the world to more than just like a waking life versus dream reality, subconscious, and being awake, it like manifests and becomes its own consciousness separate from her own mind, I suppose. So like it was her and then it grew to become its own thing. You see what I'm putting down here? Like
yeah.
Yeah. So since that whole, since like the origination of like that first device that she puts on, it plugs her subconscious into this sort of network that is a bunch of subconsciouses that are
Mhm.
melded together eventually. I kind of equate it to like playing a video game all the time. Like you're building experience points or whatever on a video game while you're inside the game, and your character kind of keeps evolving and stuff, whatever. But with this, it's similar to the same thing, because it's like her subconscious is always then in that dream state, no matter if she's aware of it or not. And so that subconscious character that she has keeps building its own personality and kind of creating its own archetype or own attributes in a way, but it's still the same person.
right.
But yeah, it's kind of an interesting part of it.
I mean, I would honestly, thinking about it more, I honestly feel like the doctor's bipolar, and it's actually a totally another personality that lives, because there are moments in the anime I recall where she's talking to that lead doctor and he goes, well, maybe we should ask Paprika for help. And she just looks at him and is like, no, I'm not going to call her.
Another
And, like-
equally valid theory.
And then at the very beginning, remember, it's Paprika who's talking to the
Detective.
the cop,
yeah,
the detective, and then
but that is in the dream
she
world.
leaves. Is it? Because because
Yeah.
she's showing him the dream on the laptop.
Right, but that's like where the Inception kind of thing comes from, like layers and layers of dreams.
Yeah,
then she
maybe. I don't
leaves.
know.
Her
And, like-
mind is still plugged into the thing,
Yeah,
It's
and like he wakes up and was like, "Oh, that's great," and then eventually goes to the office and is like, sees the doctor and like is like, and then talks
Yeah.
to the old short doctor. He's like, "That was who I think it was, right?" And then eventually, like later, he's like, "Oh, I knew you were Paprika. I knew
Yeah.
it."
Yeah.
And there is a moment where it when things start to peak, Dr. Tanaka is like passed out because he tried to do this thing with his friend, and then he got lost in the void. So she's like, all right, I'm gonna go into Paprika, and it goes into like zoom mode on her, and then just sequences into Paprika seamlessly, making you think like there's bend realities, but then it shows the doctor in the lab working, and then she's actually lying in a bed passed out, like plugged into the system.
Yeah.
Or like, induced into sleep, and then like that's where that takes over. So there are some like imaginative cuts where that's kind of where things get a little convoluted and trippy, where it's like, what's actually happening?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to kind of piece that together, being like, oh shit, that was waking reality, and they just very stylishly transitioned from the scene for like a visual kind of aesthetic.
Yeah.
So that's where things get a little nutty with this one.
But how does because in the beginning the detective has the headset. So how does the doctor get the headset back?
Are there multiple headsets?
There are multiple headsets, but remember they get stolen.
Three of them get stolen, specifically 3 of them.
And so they can't account. They don't know where they are. But the detective never is like, he's never like, oh, I'm just toting around with this, like hanging out with it. Every time he's wearing one, it's given to him. And so in the beginning, it's Paprika who takes the headset off of him. And then they discuss it at the hotel, and then he gives him remember, Paprika gives him the card of where to meet him next, and he's got that on his computer in his office.
Right. So also, okay, do you remember in the opening sequence, Paprika leaves the hotel room.
Well, right, and then she's like jumping into things
and starts jumping in and out of shit, and then is at the restaurant eating a cheeseburger, and then like dips out, but it's actually, lo and behold,
right.
The doctor.
And so that's why I'm saying it's like it's almost like Paprika is a alternate personality due to I don't know if it's bipolar, but has the ability to take over her. I mean, if we're talking as Paprika is a subconscious, right? And so then
right,
the id and the ego, right? So like id would be the doctor and the ego would be Paprika, if I think I have that right. It's like the ego can take over the id and then resemble that as well. Or she somehow masked her image to him as Paprika.
Well, so that's
labeled that, so when he sees it in his mind, he's seeing Paprika, but in reality it's not, it's somebody else.
I think it was Dr. Atsuko, but like Dr. Atsuko just took the headset off this dude and then left, but he was still asleep. But in his dream in the head, like saw that it was Paprika and not Dr. Atsuko.
Maybe.
But for visual representation of the subconsciousness, like it portrays Paprika.
I don't know. It just seems like Paprika is like this alternate internal being that resides within the doctor and can somehow.
Well, who's to say that she wasn't there physically? Because at the end of the film, all the dream world starts to, kind of.
Well, right.
meld in
so then
with...
they split.
Yeah. Right.
And the Paprika and the doctor are visible.
Yeah, there's 2 in the same reality. Like. That's what I'm thinking.
Right.
See, okay, Foundation, I think that you are this. It's exactly where I think this movie was supposed to take people to. Who's to say that it wasn't?
Right. Yeah.
Who's to say none of that wasn't actually happening? It
was all just a dream.
It was all It was all just a dream.
It was all Takada's dream.
Yeah.
His dream all from the beginning.
It's the best part about these mind trip movies is you can talk in circles about them forever. No one knows how Inception actually ended, do they?
I don't.
Well, I mean, the guy that actually did know. I watched Inception. It was good. It's the same thing. It's like, are they still in the dream world or are they not? You know, was he ever actually in the real world? You know,
Right.
All right, but let's not talk Inception. We're talking about Paprika.
No, I think we're still on
it's the same thing though, because
Yeah,
the
basically.
director, I think, is alluding to the fact that they're not even in a base reality.
Yeah. I think that the question
I don't
that
know.
it
I
has to
wouldn't
portray to the audience
necessarily.
is
He
always
was
question your reality.
right. I mean, yeah, question. Yeah, question your reality, question truth, type of deal. I don't know if the director was alluding to that the main characters weren't taking place in the real world. I mean, it seemed as evident as it possibly could have been that there was, you know, they were jumping back and forth, and it wasn't until the end, which possibly was due to the detective shooting that dude in his dream, that caused this collapse, because it wasn't until he like
It
died
was strange.
on the bedroom floor and was like kind of, because he died in the dream, and you know they always say like you can't die in your dream because you just wake up right before you die. And so maybe the fact that he was actually killed in the dream of living, a real person was killed in their subconscious, caused a void of that,
like a black hole or something within
sucking the
that
dream
realm.
world into reality, because he
he was like the base, and that's why the old dude, the old CEO guy in the wheelchair was like, you can't leave without my permission because I need that body as a host, and then like consumes it and then manifests into the giant like the
Do you think they were up to some
demon lord.
hanky panky, by the way?
Yeah,
I feel like
it
they
kinda
were.
seemed
I
like-
feel like they were.
They were both wearing
I just-
pajamas. They were in bed.
They were both wearing robes.
They were lying in the same
I mean,
bed.
it seems a little weird that they'd both be wearing robes in the same bed, and all they were doing was wearing the headset. Like, you could do that fully clothed. You didn't need to get a robe on and get
it
into
is,
a giant
the
bed
dude-
with somebody. Like,
the dude's head like comes out of the other guy's head, like
yeah,
and is visually pissed off that like he's kind of defiling this young lady.
Yeah, like he says,
and-
like this is just a woman does this to you, like just like this judgment.
yeah. So clearly the older guy is a little. I think there's something going on there.
There's some weird and like so all in a very like controlling and domineering factor, like using this young man, and he is subservient to it. Ugh.
which I feel like is a
was,
lot of like is a very like child molester mentality, like this asserting of dominance. And
Yeah.
I mean, that dude was just used like he didn't even
maybe
realize.
I
I
just
don't
watch
even
a lot of SUV. I don't know, SVU, but
watch a lot of SVU growing up. That dude, like, he was like, his whole point was out of spite because he's in love with Dr. Atsuko and Paprika.
Yeah.
And that was his only motive. And like, so the head honcho dude was just gonna be like, well, and I'm gonna use that to my advantage.
well, no, he wasn't in love with Paprika. He was in love with Dr. Atsuko.
Yeah, but he
actually did
he
like
knew that Atsuko was Paprika.
Well, right, but remember he like ripped Paprika's skin off of,
Yeah, to get to Atsuko.
like pulled her out and was like,
That's pretty cool.
because he said something about how I love the other you, or who you truly are.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I don't like this you. I like the other you.
What if him doing that in that subconscious reality is what separated Paprika and Dr. Atsuko into being completely different entities in the subconscious realm?
Could have been. Because the doctor doesn't show up in the subconscious realm until after that point.
Basically, and like they don't speak to each other. That isn't like through a reflection, like them talking, like her talking to herself until about that point too. So I don't know. Another theory there.
There you go.
Well, gentlemen, I think we've talked a lot. Does anyone else have any other endpoints before we kind of move into a closeout, kind of talk about what's to come here?
Not about this movie, no. No.
Well, other than the weird Nazi salute.
That was super weird.
That I'm glad I wasn't
weird.
the only one who picked up on.
No,
Because I was
I watched it today too. I watched it earlier today, and I was like, "What the?" But I thinking about it, it's like that has to just be a manifestation of like the antagonist.
Yeah, I would imagine, after talking it out. What I did think was weird was in the parade, everything was very Chinese, Japanese, except for the Statue of Liberty that was toting around.
There was a Statue of Liberty
kind of
toting
thing?
around in the parade. Like, was
You
that in the
didn't notice
beginning
that?
or the end?
The whole parade.
Any of the
Statue of
parades?
Liberty. Yeah,
Let me pull up a parade scene here.
I think it's even
gotta
in like
see
the
this.
front, the cover.
I think that
the
was
cover.
maybe symbolic of like it being like a free place to live or something to that effect. Like, I don't know.
No, I mean anybody who knows, America's not free.
But there
live.
was like
We
there was
pay
a bunch of
taxes.
Western,
So
lots of taxes.
what I'm at here,
Too much.
13 minutes, 13.3.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's
Not
just,
necessarily. I mean, I just see
there's a knight in armor. There's
like
some
the
weird
frogs,
ducks.
right?
There's from
And then
Samurai Oni, and yeah, just a big like it looks like the white
these
color
toy
white
robots.
Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, and there's an ogre. I mean, the only other Western thing is there is a marionette of like English armor, like European armor.
I didn't
But
see that. Is it like
beyond that, it's the same moment. So if you look at that same screenshot, there's a marionette of
I feel like
Western armor.
I feel like that's got to
Middle Ages
be.
armor.
I
But
feel like
beyond
that's
that,
a deep Easter egg cut. Like, I'm sure we could go in and find research about that, but I would assume that was like something of the production line was like, oh, this would be an interesting like Easter egg as to like why is there a Statue of Liberty? in
maybe
the very
maybe the
traditional
director's a
Japanese
huge-
stage.
is a huge fan of the Statue of Liberty. I mean, it is a landmark. I mean, people go and see it. They don't have any other landmarks. There's not like the Eiffel Tower or the Great Wall of China. Or I mean, I don't know how you make a wall dance, but I'm sure they could figure out a way. There's the
they're on-
Sphinx, but that's
Are they on the
Not
Golden Gate
necessarily.
Bridge at one point?
Yeah, well, I thought that was the Golden Gate Bridge too, and that was a little toward later in the movie when they're marching in the parade and it like they're going across that big red bridge, and I'm like, is that the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco?
I'm trying.
I don't know. I mean, dreams are like an amalgamation of various things that you see, in your waking life, and
Yeah. And those are like big landmarks.
right.
So maybe that's all it is. Maybe that's all that's meant to. That's what.
Yeah,
it's meant to
and it's
be.
like I'm looking at this thing here too, and it's like there's like a bust of like some, like maybe Madonna figure, Statue of Liberty. There's cactuses, dinosaurs, some
Cacti.
dismembered doll type things. An anatomy figure from like a science class.
Yeah, but I'm focusing on things that would not be encompassing into a
Yeah, Asian centric.
culture. Yeah, I mean, everything I see. I mean, she even turned into the Monkey King, so it's like,
Yeah.
there is a
And
moment
and
of
the
like
Monkey King,
the
that's
statue
like-
of David,
That's Chinese folklore.
but as I said, I
Yeah.
just don't see. It was just kind of something that stood out to me as very unusual. The Christian stuff, I'm not surprised, to be honest, because most Christianity and Buddhism is common in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So really no surprise there. But yeah, I was just the Statue of Liberty kind of threw me off. I don't know if the question has ever been asked, but yeah, maybe it's just the whoever the art guys are, they just kind of threw things in that.
Yeah, I think I'll stand behind Foundation's theory on that though. Like it's when you dream stuff like shit that you've just seen once in your life can pop up, and it's like Golden Gate Bridge, Statue of Liberty, like those are things that everybody sees all the time in textbooks and like across like pop culture and media. So
Mm. Yeah. One final thing I wanted to say about the film is like I thought it was really cool how they would like jump into pictures or into like TVs or computer screens. I thought that was really cool. Yeah.
I thought that was a fun mode of transportation, and like at the end they're all separated and they have to like crawl through the TV
Yeah. Yeah.
to escape the giant
They
doll.
like kind of spew out the camera.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
really
I feel
cool.
like they should have like turned off the camera at that point. Just turned like
Right.
and they all jumped out, and then someone ran and like, "Hey, turn your camera off." real fast.
And then
We don't want
Paprika
this thing
jumps on
coming
the
in
horse.
after us.
Oh yeah, into
was
the
super
poster
weird.
onto the horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool, gentlemen. Well, Foundation. We'll start with you. How many bowls of ramen out of 5 will you give this one?
You know, if it would have been in English, I would give it a 4. I would.
I'm surprised there's
good.
not a dub.
There is, but I think
There
the license,
is.
it's not licensed
available.
anymore for anywhere.
Oh, so yeah, you
Yeah.
can't stream or find it. You'd have to
Yeah.
like.
But no,
okay,
it's a deep
that's-
movie. It's actually deeper than it makes you think a lot more than like Vampire Hunter D, for instance. So like,
Ooh.
that's why I'd give it a 4.
For sure, cool.
The artwork is there, the score is there. Yeah, it's a good
Hell yeah.
storyline. And like plot, like character development was not there, but it was like a mystery, like a detective film, so it really didn't need to be there because it kind of that's the point, is to make you try and figure out what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Riggs, how about you? How many bowls or ramen are you giving this one?
You know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna give it a 3.
Oh,
Giving it a 3. As I said, I think that's simply because it's just not my cup of tea. It's just not my genre of anime. So it's probably more just like I watched it, I thought it was good. It didn't pull me in. That it doesn't check any of my personal boxes of like being like, yeah, this is a great movie. I want to watch this all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I enjoyed it. I'd watch it again. You know, I wouldn't have a drive. There would be at no point would I say, you know what, I'm gonna rent Paprika again. I'll be like, nah, I'm good with just the one time watching it.
I'll respect that. Well, I guess I'm gonna match Foundation. I'm gonna give it four bowls of soup. I'm a really big fan of Satoshi Kon. I think all of his works are great. This is something that I give, rewatchability, but it's something that I watch, once and then I put it on the shelf for a few years. I think the last time I watched this film until, today for our review here was probably, I want to say 4, maybe 5 years ago. And it was really worth revisiting. And I got my bowl of brothworth, and now I can put it away for a while, But yeah, I think the reception it received, like what it did for later things coming, the art, soundtrack, blended with whatever the plot and storyline was, I think it deserved a 4. Solid. Well, cool, gents. I guess that's kind of a wrap on Paprika. Any last words in general? What anything to come? Any spoilers for ourselves for next week? Any reveals, or are we just gonna get ready? Oh, Riggs, you are hosting next week, right?
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
There's your clue. Oh, hold on. Right
I
there.
can't. It's so far away. Hold on.
Escaflowne.
What we need to do is
I'll bring it closer.
I'm gonna blow this up.
There he is, my Escaflowne collection. So this is what we're watching, guys. Is Escaflowne, the movie.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. I remember you telling me about this, and you have the DVD of it.
I got like the super collector's DVD that's broken. Can't find that anywhere, guys. It's broken. There's a broken manufactured disc. It came with the Ultimate Edition, like collector's edition, and it was like a manufacturer defect, and so then they sent an email out. Wasn't like an email, I guess. They just made a post. God, where would they have posted this at the time? Because like Facebook and Twitter didn't exist. I don't know how I came across it. All I know is I posted it out there. I think I searched it, and it was just a post on like their website, and they said anybody who's bought it, just send us a copy of your receipt and the damaged disc, and we'll replace it. We'll send you a new one. And I was going to do it, and then I was like, you know what? No, this is now like officially a collector's piece.
No.
And so I kept it, and I went and bought a new one. And
Nice.
it cost me an extra $20, but I still got it. I still got my damaged manufacturer.
Damaged merchandise.
I think that's awesome. So I do recall you mentioning that. I mean, this was a series, but then the movie is basically an amalgamation of what the series is, just put into film.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. And I just looked it up
With a
on
couple of things
Wikipedia
tweaked.
here.
A couple of things are tweaked, but
There
more or
was
less.
there was 2 English dubs created, one by the Ocean Group and then later by Funimation. Is it available on Funimation to stream?
Yeah, I believe so.
Cool. Well, just for people who want to watch that to come there, but yeah, that'll give me an opportunity to watch it because I have that, so that's cool. Awesome. Well, next Thursday we'll look forward to Escaflowne, and then nice.
This is what we're looking at, guys. This is the
Nice.
good one. This is the bad one. As you see, it's very
In the
thick.
collector's box.
In the
Yeah.
collector's box. We don't play around here, okay?
And I guess tune in Monday
There it is.
for the news
broken one.
casting. Nice. Foundation, give us the Brady Bunch. Thanks so much for tuning in to Tune Soup this evening, guys. It was a real pleasure. Brought to you by Foundation Riggs and myself, Ketsu. You can check this out at pill.net, maybe YouTube. I don't know. Probably there too, but we really appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks so much. Have a great evening, and we will see you Monday for the newscast.